sophisticated, and the quality of the images are getting more and more advanced. And if we keep going on this level into the far distance, as we perceive distance and perceive future, we'd end up with something like this eventually. This guy here, part of him is the real him, part of him is the virtual reality him. And again, the theme is just the same. How virtual reality is getting more and more. I mean, there's more and more virtual reality simulations to teach people how to do things. Films like this stuff to help soldiers train and all that stuff. And flying simulations. And this is in a hospital where they put people on a virtual reality system when they're treating their burns, and the virtual reality is feeding them things that are images that are very cold, which the brain is reading and decoding, and it makes the pain of the dressing, etc., far less than it would be, because the brain's not decoding this to the extent that it would, because it's also decoding the opposite to it through the virtual reality. And what is virtual reality? These games. You have the goggles that use the eyes sense. You have the gloves that use the touch sense. The virtual reality games that we are using, and the more advanced ones, are simply mirroring reality. They're mirroring the five senses and using the five senses. Because what the five senses are doing is receiving vibrational information. It's what they do. I mean, the ear's the obvious one with sound, but they're all receiving vibrational information, turning it into electrical signals, another form of the same information, passing it to the brain, which then decodes that into the world we think is out there, but actually this only exists in here. We talk about space and distance, but when you look into the night sky and you see all those stars, all those lights from stars are where they used to be, anyway, and they seem so far away, and yet the only place they exist in that form is in our decoding system that turns them into an apparent physical world. So that's where the world exists. Imagine if you're the few and you know that, and you keep that understanding from the population. And you know that all you've got to do is manipulate the population's decoding system, and they will experience the reality you've manipulated them to decode. That's what's going on. That's why it's kept from us, the true nature of the reality we're living in. Because then we become controllable. This is absolutely right in the Matrix. This isn't real. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. That's what it is. The world we think is out here only exists in here. And that is a fundamental revelation to understanding how the few control the many. On one level, this reality is digital. It's a digital reality on one level. It's vibrational on another one. There's many levels of it. And it's a decoded world in terms of its physicality. The body is a computer, a biological computer. By biological, I mean it has the ability to think for itself. It's not that it's just reacting to data in the way that it's programmed to react to data. It has the ability to think for itself, certainly up to a point. And the key level of the conspiracy is to get us to believe that we are the computer, and therefore forget that we are that which is working through the computer. Consciousness. False identity. So, who are we? Big question. We think we're humans. We think we are Joe Bloggs and Bill Jones. But that's an experience. What we call human is an experience. It's not who we are. We are consciousness, energy, consciousness, having the experience. This is the vehicle to experience this reality. If I want to experience Radio 1, I have to get a vehicle, a radio, that is tuned to Radio 1. Otherwise, I can't access and experience it. Same with this reality. Our consciousness is vibrating too fast. Eventually, if you go high enough within consciousness, not vibrating at all. But it's vibrating too fast to interact. I couldn't pick this up. My consciousness couldn't pick this up because the difference between this frequency and my consciousness is too great. So we take on a vehicle which is vibrating within the frequency range of this reality, and then I can interact with it. They've kidded us that the vehicle is who we are. And that's why we see ourselves in such limited terms. We are multi-level consciousness. Extraordinary, infinite genius. On the lower levels of this multi-level consciousness, it's actually photographable now. Through things like Kirlian photography and such techniques. We are energy. And this is my mum. She died a few years ago. And I had this experience on the day of the funeral, which really gave me this profound insight into who we are. Funny enough, I got to my age a few years ago. I'd never seen a dead body ever. Just never been my experience. But my brother said to me, "Would you like to see your mother in the open coffin in the funeral parlor?" And my immediate reaction was, "No, I don't need to see that. I remember her as she was. She's consciousness anyway." But then something said to me, "Go, go, go." And this intuitive level, which says things like that, I never deny because it's taken me into so many amazing places I wouldn't have gone otherwise. And I went. And there was my mother in this open coffin, and it sounds saying the obvious, but that body was dead. I've never seen anything so dead in my life. It was completely lifeless. And next to it was this picture, a massive blown-up picture, which my brother was going to put in the funeral service. And I'm stood there, and I'm looking at this dead body. And I'm looking at this picture, and this picture's alive, because photographs can pick up the energy of us, as well as just the physical. And the sparkle, the energy that's coming off that picture was not coming off that body. The energy that's coming off that picture and not off that body, that is what had left. And that's why there's such a lifeless thing was left behind, the computer. That's all it was. That life force is who we are. And you see this and experience this through people who have what we call near-death experiences. When they leave the body dies, and then the body's revived, and they find themselves back in the body, and often they talk about going through the tunnel and all the rest of it. And this is what one near-death experiencer said about what he experienced in that out-of-body state. Everything from the beginning, my birth, my ancestors, my children, my wife, everything comes together simultaneously. I saw everything about me and about everyone who was around me. I saw everything they were thinking now, what they thought then, what was happening before, what was happening now. There is no time, there is no sequence of events, no such thing as limitation of distance, of period, of time, of place. I could be anywhere I wanted to be simultaneously. That is who we really are. That's who we really are, and that's what this conspiracy, in its bottom foundation level, is seeking to and must to prosper, keep from us. And that's why this knowledge is so suppressed through the ages, and religion has played a massive